mà chất năng bằng sông cương chiên bạch nhạc bạch nhạc sa ma kỳ cùng năn nia sông cương bom ra ca bia Campuchia mai cùng rực nia tiêm tia sân sê ray ai kêu riêng bờ na tiêm a thâm pa tay mai bờ sấy đô bờ đanh thay rẽ xa mình oi bờ từng chim pin một tua trà sông bạc đồn ta thôn thiên chiết Khmer rèn a tinh rèn bom lư Campuchia Khmer ai thêm kia đông xoài pa nhà ha nhiều bài sẽ tinh song cung ăn không xa sẽ quạt lại ca chi việc phim rùng rương đầy dương tu dương khô khô dương Khmer trọc lan song cung chiên khai ra nào ở trong đầu âm lại chun bờ chia đang bay Campuchia rung rung sen san chơi vô con nặng phải song cô chiên mà chất cái năng bằng song rung chiên bạch nhạc bạch miên sa ma kỳ cùng năn nia sông cương bom ra ca bia Campuchia mai cùng rực nia tiêm tia sân sê ray ai kêu riêng bờ na tiêm a thâm pa tay mai bờ sấy đô bờ đanh thay rẽ xa mình oi bờ từng chim pin một tua trà sông bạc đồn ta thôn thiên chiết Khmer rèn a tinh rèn bom lư Campuchia Khmer ai kêu thêm kia đông xoài pa nhà ha nhiều bài sẽ canh song cung ăn không xa sẽ quạt lại ca chi việc phim rùng rương đầy dương tu dương khô khô dương Khmer trọc lan song cương chiên khai ra mà nào đôi trong đầu âm na chun bờ chia đang bay Campuchia rung rung sen san
And hello and welcome to our show. This is CNRP America live TV show, live Facebook show. This program is under Khmer Youth Voices for Justice. Thank you for joining our show this evening, or if you are in Cambodia this morning, thank you. Today is Tuesday, October 11, 2022. Again, thank you for joining our show. For our audience, I just want to remind our audience that we do myself and both of my guests will speak English for today. So unfortunately, we will not be speaking Khmer. Our program has 6 days per week in Khmer. So please tune in our 6 days per week with different hosts, different guests, and the Khmer hosts are very more professional than I am. I am not a Facebook Live person. I'm just doing my job. So hopefully you enjoy the show today. The topic today, the main topic would be microfinance. And so we will discuss that because Cambodia, many people, a lot of people are owning it due to microfinance. So we will talk with, I will talk with two of my guests regarding that topic. So please, if you in business, or if you're in banking and you know what microfinance is, please join in, please chime in and share your experience. Also share what your knowledge regarding that topic. So please put in your comment, and hopefully you can also put in comment that also I can learn something and my guests can also learn something new today. So beside that, please join our show, please tune in, please comment. Again, thank you so much. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Linda Ou. I am coming live from Los Angeles, California. You would know where Los Angeles, California, but I am from Pomona, California. I was raised in Pomona, but if I tell people that I'm from Pomona, many people would know where it is. But I am broadcasting live from the state of California, and I will introduce my guest in a little bit. After I actually want to talk about current event. October 10, which is yesterday, Mr. Samady Ou, who's the acting president of CNRP, he's currently living in exile in France. He in 2019, Prime Minister Hun Sen and his son-in-law, Deputy National Police Chief Lee Vigier, filed a complaint against Mr. Samady Ou in Paris court in France. So the result yesterday, the court found Mr. Samady Ou clear of all charges, meaning the charges was defamation cases. Basically, he was Mr. Samady Ou was posting online regarding Lee Vigier father, who's also known as Hoc Long Lee. He got killed in a helicopter. So based on that, Mr. Hun Sen basically saying that it's not true. Whatever he posting, it's making bad faces, make him look bad. So yesterday, the Paris French jury judges have found not guilty or not. Basically, they found Mr. Hun Sen and his son-in-law filed a lawsuit. So they found that the lawsuit has no base. The lawsuit cannot move forward. So that's what is going on. So Mr. Samady Ou is clear of that. The reason I brought it up, if you watch the trusted news in Cambodia, the topic have been spinning around. The topic has been and Mr. Hun Sen himself came out and say, he won the lawsuit, he wasn't happy, this and this, but unfortunately, it's not the way how they twisted and not the way how the regime twisted. So, so Mr. Samady Ou, he said that he welcomed the decision with great emotions, and so it's not just for Mr. Samady Ou, that it's also show that under international law, unlike the law in Cambodia, where many people are found guilty for just freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, where in Cambodia the law is run by Hun Sen, is ruled by Hun Sen, and the judge is under Hun Sen. So this is show that in the international community, in the international field, Mr. Hun Sen couldn't even come close to what is the truth. So for that's the big news from yesterday. So I just want to bring you up if you are watching the news and you see what's going on. So that's what happened. So and just to be aware, Mr. Samady Ou have been sued and have been found guilty by Hun Sen court. So if you add up the year that he was found guilty, that he's supposed to be in prison, it's probably add up to 100 years by now. So this is the first case that they try in Paris, and also he's found not liable for any of those that being accused by Hun Sen and his son-in-law. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And that's the news for today. I would like to introduce my guests. You met them many times. They've been on my show many times. My first guest, her name is Brittany Baker. She is from Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. I never been to Ohio, um, but I'm sure she's been to California. But let me introduce her, and then we'll talk to her, and then we will introduce my second guest. So here's Brittany. So Brittany, how are you?
I'm well. I'm busy, but I'm good. Happy to be back. How are you?
I'm glad that you are back. How is Ohio? Look very dark right now. I think you are 3 hours ahead of us in
Yeah,
California.
it's about 9:30 here. Yeah, it's dark now, and getting a little cold too. The days are really short.
And thank you for joining our show. If our audience do not know who Brittany is, she's very active. She's very concerned. I hope you know by looking at her, I don't think she had a drop of blood of Cambodian inside of her, but she's actually is very active, very concerned citizen of Ohio that care about the Cambodian community. And on that note, I know you care. What made you started with caring so much about the Cambodian community, especially in Columbus, Ohio?
Yeah, good question. So, I lived in Cambodia. I moved to Cambodia in 2016, and I worked there with some Cambodian teachers, worked alongside them, lived in the countryside for a few years, and built some really great relationships, personal and professional relationships with Cambodians. And since leaving there, have maintained those relationships and thought deeply about these issues that I'm really passionate about. Including this issue that we're talking about tonight with the micro loans, and that was something that caught my eye when I was there a number of years ago, and recently, a couple of months ago, to see the situation after COVID is even more concerning. So I remain active with these issues and working with Cambodians and American too, and fortunate enough to continue this work from Ohio.
Thank you, Brittany. Let me ask you another question. Do you know where Cambodian was or facing, where's Cambodians at, which direction is before you even get involved? Do you know, like, oh, this country is facing this way, this country has the culture, this Asia? Do you even know Cambodia exists before you even get involved?
I knew obviously of Cambodia and where it was in that region, but I didn't have a lot of background information besides some of the conflicts in the history, of course. But I'm fortunate to have lived there and lived in the countryside amongst the people and learned a lot from them. So I'm thankful for that time and thankful for the diaspora community here in Ohio that I'm able to continue that relationship here.
Well, thank you, Brittany. And on that note, I encourage our youth, even though you're not even Cambodian, you involved and you care about Cambodia. So I really encourage our youth that Cambodian, either born here or born in Cambodia, that living overseas to spend time getting involved with the community. Like Brittany, she started out with the Cambodian Ohio community. Not many of you are fortunate to work on the ground with the people, but if you have a chance and if you have the time and the volunteer or the concern, most of us just concern, learn a little bit about the country, learn a little bit about especially what's going on in Cambodia. For the last, I can say, 40 years, nothing have changed besides people are getting more poor. And so we will talk about that, why people are getting poor and why is it 40 years nothing moving and nothing improved. So thank you so much, Brittany.
Thank you.
Next time we'll talk more about Brittany, her personal life, but this time we'll keep it to the minimum. Thank you, Brittany. My next guest is Samady. He's been here many times. He's one of our youth, like Brittany. But he is Cambodian. He's really involved with the youth in America. So let me bring him out. We have Samady.
Live so Bong, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you, Bong.
So Samady, what made you get involved with the basically what made you get involved with the show, and also why you care and why you learn so much? Like, why do you have, like, today you learning about microfinance? What is it? What's going on in Cambodia? Why do you get involved, and why do you care so much about Cambodia?
Well, I been raised in the U.S. and got my education from one of the most elite educational system in the world, and I feel like our country is in need of um, people who can see two side of view, like from one side to another, and can compare to our own country. While in our country, people like to use the term "thank you, peace," even though they don't even know what the true peace is in this case. So I feel like it is important for me to able to express my ideas regarding opinion and how the regime run the country, and that Cambodia doesn't have genuine democracy.
Thank you, Samady, and also thank you for always being on our show, for always the last minute. If I need someone to help me with the show, Samady always jump in. And the same thing with Brittany, she jump in anytime she available. Both Brittany and Samady is very busy. Brittany has a full-time job, but also she's, like I said, she's advocating for the Cambodian community, spending their time. Brittany, especially, she's translating for the Cambodian community because she does speak both English and Khmer. So let me bring her back in. Well, thank you, both of you, for being on my show. I very grateful. Anytime I need a guest, you always jump in. You always willing to volunteer, and does not matter what the topic is. You always did your research like today. So let me introduce the topic. The topic is, the short word is microfinance. Before we start, I want to share a YouTube video so our audience will understand a little bit of what is microfinance, how does it affect Cambodian people. And Brittany have mentioned already, she been to Cambodia before COVID. So I think 2016, starting 2016, and now 2022, we still talking about microfinance. So it's not going away. And we will talk about what it is after our YouTube. I believe it's a 3-minute video I will share, and then we'll discuss the topic in detail.
Một vốn khi khang si đà khi tới vô màu tình lệ thong thời cả bạ đặc lông đặc ấy rằng về từ lông nơi lông mà lông mà rồi tới ở miền lui mà luôn ăn cá bỏ từ cây tháp na bên ra tiền cây bỏ tới bỏ màu đào lui ấy cái chuồn phong tới bị can đi chơi là đã phong đây đã pì cây rồi về là lâu nứng kêu phong miền pram cái tia là từ phong buồn đã ra ngày nè cái tia là trong nằm tới lụa đây được về khai pram nứng lụa đây cái là hạt lụa cái pi pòn tới cắt bạ tới bạ tới dù lụa ngó xong cái ruồi cái thà lụa nghe ram thật đài rồi ngày đầm svai rồi lụa đây cái về từ khơi như ca đài là bỏ Mình đang thương mạch bơ miền mặt thiệp rô song kìไปลวกได้เมื่อรำทัศดายเฮ้ยพี่ออตะไปเบื่อลวกเตอตะไปโกดังบ้านไอ้ตะไปกระดมุกเตะตะไปคลุนจ่าเตอดังเมียนไอ้เธอดังเมียนไอ้ตีปึงยังเลยกูเป็นสดายกึดเวงง่ายสอบปรุกไปคลาดไอ้ชื่อตะเมียนอุรำเจริญเกยคลาดเกยบุเตียงเตอเกยสดายเอาหรือตะเกยมาโอรับไอ้มาเกยยังเลยกูเตอนึกเคยเตอเบอร์จะเปียเกยดอกแข่งเตอพี่คลุนไอ้ลวกได้ลวกไอ้ยังเตอโยนซองเกยมองตัวดองไงใครเกมเตียบึกเพิ่งรู้เจริญเกมเมาหาดัดเตียเทียนพุ่มตัวเนี้ยเกียปีใบหายมันดัดเตียเทียนพุ่มยังเตยเกหายเตยกำนัดไงใครซองเตยยังไปยังจิตดองไงยังเตยยังลุใดลุไอยังเตยใช่ไอ้เกจวนกระยังเตยอยู่เตยซองเกบานมันไงเกกำนัดใครเกอยู่ดัดเตียเทียนพุ่มมันเทยยังป่าปอดโกนไปยังตระคำโรลิบองกาโกนดูในเตียบานเรียนเตยไปเมียนโกบโอนตู้เตียตระนายบโอนยมตระเธอกาเตยเมียนบานเรียนนะไปไงคลาดบานเรียนเตยไปไงคลาดบานเรียนตระนายจุยเธอกาเลยยบโอนเตียยัง
Well, that's an introduction of microfinance. That's just one from a one perspective, from one lady, one young lady perspective. The word is microfinance. If you dissect the word micro means small. If it's small, why is it affecting so many Cambodian? Brittany, what does it mean by microfinance? What does that mean? How does it microfinance being described? I know you're not a finance major or a business major. Brittany is a teacher, so she can explain what does it mean when people say I'm microfinance.
Right. So microfinance loans are mostly aimed towards poor people, people without economic means, to provide them some capital to start a business or some initiative or some project that they have in mind that will provide them and their family with some financial security in the long run. And this industry popped up in the late 1990s after many years of conflict. And as you said, it implies that it's a small amount because of the word micro. But as we saw in the video, there are a lot of massive problems with these loans. Half of Cambodians and most of the people that suffer from this debt are half of Cambodians are indebted, and then even more, like the people that mostly suffer from this debt are living in rural areas in the provinces. They're farmers who thought that the microloan would solve some of their issues, address some of the poverty that they have been facing, but that hasn't been the case.
Thank you, Brittany. Now I want somebody to add that Brittany miss anything. What is microfinance for our audience that finally tune into the show and say, what is this thing that we're talking about?
Brittany was right. So microfinance, like you said, like loaning by small amount compared to traditional bank in Cambodia. By definition, it is a banking service provided to unemployed or low-income individual in Cambodia's who maybe otherwise not have access to financial service like bank, like ABA, AC, Lidam, Tapana, all those national bank of Cambodia. And their goal and their purpose is to pull as many people out of the cycle of poverty as they can. But in Cambodia, it's a different story. When you had a microfinance, thinking about high interest rate for the Cambodian agriculture sectors, technically poor people who cannot pay them back, and by the end of term, they need to pay back. Their interest is more than the amount that they borrowed in the first place. If we compare them microfinance, like in the US, there isn't many microfinances. When you kind of think of it, most bank would give you structures or plan like JP Morgan, which is Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, and so on, provide you solution for small businesses. So microfinance is more like in Cambodian agricultural sectors. In this case, they will take your land if you can't pay it back.
Thank you, Samady. I think I look up most people own maybe $4,000 or $5,000 own in microfinance. To us in the US, $4,000 or $5,000 is a lot of money. It's not something that you can cough up in a day, but you can cough up in a couple months. For Cambodia, the factory worker making $198 per month. So you are looking at they are making $2,000 per year. So if someone were to own $4,000, that means that's say 2 years of income without eating, without spending the money that they make from being from work at the factory. So when you're talking about the big picture, for someone for just say $4,000 worth of owning in microfinance, if you spend if you work in a factory, you spend $100 on food and house, and it's unrealistic that you only spend $100 per month. So just say that the person is spending $100 per month, and they save another 100 for microfinance. It's gonna take forever just to pay them back. Even though to us the term micro means very small, very amount of money. They started out by helping farmer, like Brittany said, helping farmer, but unfortunately. What are they using those when you're helping farmer? What do you mean? Why does farmer need help? They have rainy season, they grow rice paddy, they growing fruit, they growing vegetable. What do they use the money for, Brittany?
Yeah, that's a good question. In my experience, people use the money for many different things. Even many of the teachers that I worked with, they would borrow money from these different institutions to start like a side business, because the salary that they're given as a teacher is inadequate to meet all of their needs. So then they have a second job, a third job, which they need some capital to start those jobs. So then they're left to borrow from an institution. Maybe they buy a Tory, like a van, right, to transport goods and people and things like that. And then perhaps they can't pay it back. So as we saw in the video, they're left to borrow from a second institution to pay back the first institution. And then perhaps they borrow from a third institution to pay back institution 1 and 2. And this is so common. I know people that have done this, and these are people with a regular government salary, but their salary is not sufficient to support their family. So they're left to borrow from these predatory lenders. And as we saw in the video too, they put their land as capital, as collateral, and their land is usually their only asset. And this is something that is unique to the borrowing situation in Cambodia with the micro lenders. Micro lenders in other countries, per my research, they don't require capital. Cambodia is unique in that sense. And that's probably because there isn't a lot of government regulation or effective policies that regulate how the lending is set up. But in many other countries that have a similar economic situation, they don't require a collateral, and certainly not land titles in order to to get these microloans. So that's something that's particularly concerning for Cambodians.
Thank you, Brittany. On a side note, when Brittany talk about farming, talk about teacher, people who have a regular salary and then trying to basically open a business or side business. The other thing that I read is healthcare. People borrow money because their family got sick and they need to spend the money for medical issue. Somebody help to describe what is the medical situation in Cambodia? Is there a Medicare like America? Is there a free hospital, or is it there's a healthcare in Cambodia?
Well, I think just last week, Hun Sen just adopted, I think poor people card to give it to them. They can go to the hospital for free and increase. I think it's called number 2, poor, I think. So they basically give you more money to the family per family members, and also he said you can go to any hospital for free because the election is coming up, and also this would create more problem for the Cambodian people, because as I heard, most of the benefit doesn't go to the really poor people. You actually have to know someone from the CPP, and you have to make connections and also show them that you are poor. And most people doesn't really get it because they really need to know if you're going to vote for the CPP or not. So in this case, there's healthcare in Cambodia, but I don't know, that would fix the problem.
There's hospital, there's clinic in Cambodia, but how far the hospital and clinic willing to help the people is another question. And from reading the reading about microfinance, on top of farmer borrowing money to actually take care of their land, buying fertilizer, and also like Brittany example is starting a new job, is people are being sick, people are well, when people are getting older, it doesn't matter which country you live in, you will get sick. And so the money, borrow money to actually pay the doctor, paying to support us, how to keep yourself or your family being alive. And also the microfinance, most people not, like Brittany just said, most people not just borrow one time. I mean, they borrow one time from my bank, they couldn't repay it, so they went and borrow another bank. So basically, it's like interest rate on top of interest rate, and that's what we're talking about. Brittany interestingly brought up about the land. People use land for concessions, and we know that land is something that if you don't have your land, it's considered in violation of human rights, because land is something that keep you alive, meaning like you have shelter on your land you used to grow vegetable, grow plant, basically land, people have land to support them. But when people are no longer have their land, that is affecting their life, because their livelihood, affecting their face in the community. So did you experience that, Brittany, that people losing, I mean, one of the videos you see, she's lucky she have 5 places, 5 different location or lands. Not many people have 5 locations or 5 I guess 5 different lots of land.
Yeah, I witnessed it all the time. And people would sometimes have like a house that was closer to the main road, closer to the market, closer to a health center, closer to the school, that they've had for generations. And they put their land up for collateral to get a loan. Perhaps they have a kid already working in Thailand sending money back, but it's not enough money. So then they have to get this micro loan, right? And then they can't pay this money back, right? Maybe the work in Thailand is slow, or maybe he got sick. And so there's no money coming back from Thailand. So there's very few options for them to repay this loan. The person is coming every single day, which I saw all the time. I saw these micro lender men, workers coming to collect money all the time. And eventually they can't pay it back. So their land is taken from them. They have very little recourse. They signed the document. Perhaps they're illiterate. Perhaps they didn't have any other choice but to sign this document to get this money. They lost their land. If they're lucky, they have family in that area that they can go and stay with if their family can accommodate them, or they're left to maybe go really far away from the main road and the resources to more of an area with not fertile land and sort of camp on that land, for lack of a better word. Their house isn't there, right? So they're left without a lot of resources. This happens so much, and I would see a sign, and this land is for sale now, and I'm like, wait, where did that family go that was there last week, right? Where is my student? Oh, okay, that happened. They moved to another province to be with their family because their land was taken. That happens so much, and what we're seeing more of now is people outside countries, so-called investors, are coming in and buying up this land, and that doesn't benefit the everyday person. The typical Cambodian is not benefited from this sort of investor in their area.
Thank you, Brittany. When we're talking about you brought up about people going, a migrant worker in Thailand, migrant worker in Korea or Japan. Those are real youth that grew up, could not went to school, and also those are youth that helping out their family. That's at least the minimum, like at least over 2 million people that cross the border to Thailand, working, and I believe documentation just to cross is also expensive as well. And also, if you live in the countryside, you would come to Phnom Penh and look for a job. And many job is you are working in the casino. You're working for Chinese casino where such a big, especially it's catered to Chinese people. Those big casino in Cambodia. One of them is Naga World Casino, and there's no help from the government. We touch base about people getting microfinance loan. They are in trouble, and nobody help, and there's no law to help them. The only thing they can do is, they're afraid, they're scared because people are threatening them, intimidate them every single day for a repayment. And so they're sending their kid across the border, they're sending their kids to the city to work and without any support. And you would say, oh, my kid or somebody or migrant worker in Thailand, it's in a different country that get no support. Okay, that's their government, whatever they do, that's their story. How about the people in Cambodia, that those people that working in Naga Corp? Now it's been 11 months, Samady. What is it 11 months? It's been 10 months now, going on 11. I think it's been 11 since December, so 11 months. I'm sorry, our audience, I'm confusing you. What is the government doing to help those workers? Many of those probably have that family in the countryside have microfinance. Does the government help solve the issue? If they're not solving the issue with microfinance, do they help solve the issue with working condition, working environment, or who help them?
I don't think the government is helping them because I think the regime is the one who owns most of the microfinances in Cambodia. In this case, two of the most issues in Cambodia microfinance is one, like Brittany said, for collateral damages, you need to use your land title as collateral. If you cannot pay it back, they will seize the land. And two is the high interest rate charged by MFI, which is microfinance institutions in Cambodia. So in this case, after COVID, another impact that microfinances does without the government interference, the regime interference, is rejecting small borrower and shifting toward the larger one. In this case, if you are poor and you don't have any land to put in as the title for collateral damages, you're not getting any loan. That's why in the video you see the ladies who have 5 land able to go to different institutions to loan money, and they accepted her immediately because she can use all 5 of her land titles to put at those institutions. But for small borrower, they're gonna just be turned away by microfinances institution because they don't have anything to put in, which basically counteract the whole ideas of MFI, which is to help the poor and give some small borrower access to financial services. And I think that's what I think. If the government really care about the Cambodian citizen, what they can do is they can implement it a rule instead of just guiding them. They have to follow by the law, something to follow. In this case, the government hasn't done anything to put a stricter rule or law into MFI, which is in this case microfinances institution. They can just do whatever they want to, raise interest rate, seize the land if you can't pay it back, and the government hasn't stepped in to help yet.
Thank you, Samady. And we see this all over Cambodia. It's like we have youth that's able, capable, but the regime send them over to the border to work in Thailand, not just working on a low paying job, because those are jobs that Thai people doesn't want to do. Send our worker to Korea, send our worker to Japan, even though they get more pay than in Cambodia, but unfortunately doesn't matter more pay or not. There's no job in Cambodia. And I just saw a term in one of our chat. So, the regime win-win policy on everything, win-win in business, win-win in politics, unfortunately only benefit their family, only benefit the few. And those few that benefit is just blood sucking all the resources out of the country. And that is so unfortunate. Now we're talking about issue. How are we gonna help solve this issue, Brittany?
That's a great question. I think first it requires us to ask what problem is microfinance trying to fix in the first place? So why is this industry so big in Cambodia? What are the root causes of poverty? And microfinance was proposed as a quick solution or a band-aid perhaps to solving poverty, but it doesn't solve poverty. And research has indicated that it actually creates more poverties and creates very vicious cycles of poverty, especially for women and vulnerable populations. So asking what problem is microfinance supposed to be addressing in the first place is a good place to start, and to look at the structures that have been put in place to allow certain communities to be oppressed in the global south, and certain communities to be oppressed and remained in positions of poverty within Cambodia too by the regime. And also it would require the authorities, all the way down to the local authorities, to stop colluding with the micro lenders in the provinces and in the communes all the way across Cambodia, because a lot of the things that we see with the land titles are not legitimate, and so it requires a lot of corrupt local officials to work with those micro finance institutions to get the land titles in the first place, because many people in Cambodia don't have a official land title. They have what's called a soft land title, which shouldn't be allowed to be used to prove that you own that land. So it requires a lot of corruption from the officials to take part in this and to essentially make people displaced from their land. So a lot of things, like addressing the root causes that require these micro institutions to run rampant in Cambodia. It requires a look at corruption on all levels with the local officials and with the micro lending institutions, and it requires to have practices, policies, and norms that regulate this industry that has long preyed on Cambodians. And shame on the outside lenders from the United States and from Europe and many countries in Europe that pour millions and millions of dollars into these micro loans. It requires a look on all of those levels.
Thank you, Brittany. I agree what you're saying. Also, taking a look at the issue is the issue itself, because they're not looking. Even like I'm struggle on the Naga woman who's they are protesting since November, and the regime not even come out to even help or to mediate at all, and even accuse them of color revolutions. And you brought up a good point. I did read, I did my research on this microfinance. Many of them is affected women, especially women. And that is hitting the heart of the family. And you said, like you said, you being a teacher, you saw a family moving. That's the whole family that, kid in this country is devastated when they move from place to place. Imagine you pick up your whole family where you live in that town for generation and generations, and all of a sudden you have to move to a different place, a different locations, and that just happening. And it need to change. And you said you in Cambodia since 2016, and now we are 2022, 6 years later. We still talking. So I mean, the regime is not doing anything. And with COVID-19, we all know that everyone affected by COVID-19, even people in America financially affected by COVID-19 because of job loss. And the same thing in Cambodia, the tourist industry got shut down, and every sector of the country just open now. Unfortunately, the regime is not helping. It's not helping with anything at all. So Samady, any solution you want to give, and what do you want to do? I know everything needs to be from the top down. So,
well, you are right, Bong. Everything needs to be from the top down. If the Hun Sen regime want to genuinely help the Cambodian population, especially poor population, agricultural perspective, in practice, the government should implement a more firm and strict mechanism to edit those, to make sure that those micro finances institutions, there's 85 of them in Cambodia, to have fair practices. For instance, underprivileged borrower not assured that they're getting enough financial informations. In this case, they just say, "Oh, you don't have money to buy tractors or pesticides, seed to make sure your farm is up and running." In this case, just borrow money. So they just force them into signing document that putting their land title away as collateral damages, and before making any loan decision. And many borrowers have limited financial knowledge, and many MFI lack mechanism for determining if this the right decision for them to loan. And most Cambodian people, since they lack financial knowledge regarding MFI, they just use the loan for non-productive purposes. They don't know how to generate money from this loan, and by the end of the month, they don't make money from to pay the loan back. They ending up having more interest rate. So I believe the government need to put more rules and regulations into MFI instead of letting them raise all the interest rate as much as they want. I think in Cambodia is around 18% during COVID for interest rate. That is really high for Cambodian poor population.
Thank you, Samady. Yes, and unfortunately, it still exists microfinance. It's like the reason we're talking about, because it's back in the new again, and there is no government to help. The regime doesn't help. Brittany, if you were in America, you are in America, and if you are have owning so much money to people, to the company, what is the option in America to get out of that?
To get out of debt, you mean?
Mhm.
It depends on what kind of debt you have, but if people have debt that's insurmountable, filing bankruptcy is one option to sort of reset some of that debt, but I know that's not an option for the micro loans in Cambodia because the people are not protected. There's no policies that protect the borrower. So what you often will see is, as I mentioned earlier, kids dropping out of school, kids cutting back on their education to start working to pay this money back, or simply because their family can't afford to send them to school anymore. That's something on a very practical level that happens and is happening more and more. When I was in Cambodia recently compared to pre-COVID, I noticed a lot more micro loan institutions throughout the countryside. The countryside was especially affected during COVID. And so then there's this growth in the microloan industry, which puts people at further risk for falling prey to these predatory practices.
Thank you, Brittany. We're almost at the end of our talk show. Thank you so much. We have so much to talk. I don't even I think maybe somebody can chime in about fruit and vegetable that the farmer, they borrow money to buy this fertilizer, and they're growing, and their plant is growing, their vegetable is growing. What happened when they actually gather all their fruit?
Are you asking me, Bon?
Yeah, you can answer what happened when they got it. How about mango? How about longo? How about all those stuff that after they borrow money, after they actually finally got the money, finally have some rain, finally have some fertilizer, now they gather all their fruit.
Well, after using all the land titles, paying back all the 18% interest rate, they thought everything is going to be up and running. They can make profit now. By the end of the day, the government let import export from Vietnam into Cambodia instead. You can see that 50 to 60% of the pork or beef or vegetable has been thrown into Cambodian market. We can talk about in the countryside or in the capital, especially in Phnom Penh, in Angkor Wat, most of the fruit is from Vietnam. And as you know, if you go to Cambodia, you know, when people hear Vietnamese product, they are afraid because of the chemical that they injected in, because the fruit looks so fresh, like it looks like you want to eat it, is larger than Cambodian product. Most people will buy it instead. So in this case, the Cambodian who borrowed a lot of money from microfinances institution in Cambodia cannot sell their product because they don't have any market to sell it to, and the government just opened up the market to product from Vietnam instead. So this is the main problem we have: is the government doesn't know how to run because the regime serve its own purposes.
Thank you, Samady. Yes, the regime doesn't create market, doesn't create open market for the farmer to sell their product. So if our audience listen to us talking about farmers, like what happened to the product that you borrow money from? What happened to the crop? You take money and you grow the crop, and what happened to that when you're done? Unfortunately, many times, I'm going to take example mango. If you go to Cambodia, you see mango tree. Every house have mango tree, and mangoes have so many tree. But then, I mean, so many fruit, so many mango on the tree. But unfortunately, you cannot sell them because there's no market. The regime doesn't create market for our farmer to sell the product. And if you are in the morning, if you in Phnom Penh, you would see vegetable fruit coming in like early morning, and you would see herbs and lemongrass, and you would stop and think to yourself, Cambodian that lazy, you couldn't even grow your own lemongrass. No, unfortunately, people growing lemongrass, but there's no market, there's no to sell them. I mean, you can sell them, you can sell to your neighbor, you say, but when you grow a lot of it, you grow to make money, you grow as a business. It doesn't make money because the people that because the regime created the market to coming in, importing, not exporting. And in order for economy to grow, in order for the people in Cambodia to have their own business or their own to make profit out of those being farming, you have to make export, you have to be able to sell the product. But unfortunately, this in Cambodia, the situation is we cannot sell product, we cannot export product to other country. There's no, the regime doesn't make the market for it, only bringing in the product, bring in cheap product that the people in Cambodia spend money on fertilizer, spend money on water, and cannot compete with what's imported. That's the issue.
You know, on the topic of that, in Cambodia, I saw that even our own Cambodian product, the people not even bother buying it. Okay, there's two versions of Coca-Cola in Cambodia. One is made in Cambodia, the other one is made in Thailand. People prefer to buy the Thai product instead because they said Coca-Cola from Thailand tastes more delicious than the Cambodian Coca-Cola. So when I went to houses, different houses, I saw most Coca-Cola is written in Thai instead of Khmer. So I asked them why. They said the Coca-Cola is more delicious because Cambodian doesn't know how to produce Coca-Cola. So that's kind of funny because both from the same company, but one is better. So I don't think even the Cambodian populations, due to the government ineligible to promote its own product, not even the Cambodian citizen interested in buying anything that made in Cambodia. They prefer to buy product from Thailand instead because it's high quality. It guarantees health, and people would prefer to spend more money to buy product from Thailand instead.
Thank you, Samady. I want Samady to actually answer questions. Mr. Jia Salmon said, how do you go about helping Cambodia people from government scamming its own people?
I don't know. Hun Sen is controlling everything, and he served Vietnam benefit in this case. We can see COVID-19. He said he's gonna stop the MFI from raising interest rate and collecting debt, but no one follow his order. They raised the interest rate up, and people lost all their land after COVID. In this case, so if Hun Sen doesn't want to change, no one can help Cambodia. I think Hun Sen just do it for his own benefit, so more money can go into his pocket.
Thank you, Samady. Any thought from you, Brittany?
That's a great question. Maybe we can tackle that next week.
let me just touch a base on that answer. Um, if you want to help, if Cambodian themselves want to help themselves from government scamming, first of all, government can only have power when you let them to. So it people power. If you just sit there and watch, you just sit there and just allow the government, allow the regime to continue. They've been doing it for the last 40 years. If you keep on sitting on the sideline and watch, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be watching, and you're going to also watch them continue to hurt, continue to his word would be scamming its own people. So it is people power. It's not just you do not allow the regime to keep going, but at this case, this is the reason why you people power. How do you stop? How do you help? You help them by asking them. Their voices is very. It's mean a lot. So maybe we tackle it next time. That's my short answer is we allow Cambodian people allow Hun Sen to do whatever they want, even though a group of people complain, a group of people got in trouble. If people collectively complain, it will change something because it's not their voice is mean a lot. So thank you for that questions. And with that, we are at the end of our show. Thank you so much, Brittany, and thank you, Samady, for being here. Do you want to add anything, Samady, and then I follow with Brittany on that questions.
I think that's all for today, but I don't have any more to add. You can ask Brittany.
Okay, thank you, Samady. How about you, Brittany? You want to add anything you forgot or you want to say?
You guys know I always have something to add, but we can maybe save this for another episode. But I also want to draw attention to how the micro lending industry has particularly preyed on the indigenous people and the hill tribes of Ratanakiri, who have different land titles. They have communal land titles. So rather than having a individual land plot, which most Cambodians have, the people in the indigenous communities tend to have a communal land title, and a lot of their area, their surrounding area, is should be protected by the government and by certain policies that protect the forest and the waterways around those areas. But the microfinance industry has jeopardized a lot of those indigenous practices, and some of them, as you know, have different languages from the Cambodian language. So when they're signing these documents, which are in Khmer, the people are especially vulnerable to being taken advantage of. So that's just a little bit of a highlight of how that community is really vulnerable to the predatory micro lending. But maybe we can tackle that one another time.
And that's not just the only issue. The only issue is they have their own culture. They have their preserved culture. And when you take that land away, when you take that community away, all the culture that they've been preserving for generations, I know somebody is yawning, but for generation, it's lost. Also, that is another issues as well, the culture that's lost into that. And so stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back with that subject next month. So thank you so much, Brittany, and thank you so much, Samady, for being here today.
Thank you, Bong.
Thank you. On that note, we are at the end of our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our topic is microfinance. We talk about the issue. We're talking about why Brittany was in Cambodia in 2016. She witnessed microfinance. She know what's going on in Cambodia. So now it's been 6 years. So, and also it's not just happened in 2016. Microfinance, how it's probably in the late 1990, early 2000. So why we still keep talking about this in 2022? Because the regime does not have a solution, does not help its own people. Microfinance costs land, especially many people lost their land, and that's the only thing they have that passed from generation into generations. So it's something that sad that you live in your home, your land for many generations and lost because you couldn't pay back. So that's the topic for today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I just reading the comment. Thank you so much for your comment. Thank you for joining our show, and also thank you for your input. And also the questions. I will read them later. I will answer some of that. And also, I hope you have a good evening. If you are in New Zealand or you are in Cambodia, I hope you have a good morning, Wednesday morning. So. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know if you want to hear a different topic next week. But next week is going to be closer to the Paris Peace Accord. So I am aiming toward the show on that, even though we're doing it every year. Hopefully to remind people why is it important on the Paris Peace Accord. And also this Saturday morning, this coming Saturday, in America, so Sunday in different part of the world, we will talk about Paris Peace Accord in Khmer. So please tune in. It's where I don't know the timeline. We have different places, but in California, it's like 6 a.m. in California, 6 a.m. 9 a.m. in New York. So I think 10 a.m. in 10 a.m. in Japan or somewhere. So it's in the morning, my time. So hopefully your evening, Saturday evening. But we will talk about, we will ask many people to join in, also non-profit organization to join in as well, NGO. So that way we will do a roundtable discussion of what is Paris Peace Accord, and I will also do a Paris Peace Accord, like a short learning on Tuesday, so our youth will understand the importance of Paris Peace Accord and why we're still talking about it and why the regime is not celebrating on. That's not one of their holiday. So beside that, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being here. I hope you have a good evening, good morning, wherever you at. So thank you.